A Southern belle who came to Blair and took the tennis team by storm. After the usual student struggles, she grew up and became a successful lock prefect. This is likely the version of today's chapel speaker's story that you've heard, and as far as highlight reels go, it's not so bad. But there's another story to this picture, a story of perseverance, of risk and reward, of fear, shyness, sadness, but often hilarity. I'm excited that each of you will get to know this thoughtful, genuine, caring, and goofy senior gem a little bit better, and get the opportunity to gain some wisdom and perspective through her own trials here at Blair. It is my distinct honor to introduce today's chapel speaker, Sydney Landau.
One month. That is how long I'd known about Blair before freshman year move-in day. During my 8th grade year, I'd gone back and forth about the huge decision to go to boarding school and whether I could really make it on my own. I had toured a couple of schools, but never felt at home. Finally, someone told me about a school called Blair. I will admit that the only reason I first looked into Blair was because I was watching Gossip Girl at the time, and Blair Waldorf was my all-time favorite character. Also, me being the baking fanatic that I am, I was thrilled to learn how close Blair was to Hoboken, where the one and only cake boss lives. At 14, it felt like destiny, and that I had to go there. So, I made the decision to leave my southern roots behind and head into a new chapter up north. Before I went to Blair, my dad made me promise 2 things: that I would not come home with a Yankee boyfriend or accent. So far, I haven't brought home either. Move-in day came in a flash, considering I had just decided to attend Blair in July. I was standing in line to get my schedule, starting to get a little freaked out because, while obviously Blair is not the same as college, boy, did it feel like college to me. I saw this girl in front of me with long blonde hair, who was also a freshman, start to give hugs and hellos to a bunch of older kids. I immediately started to freak myself out, thinking, how does she already know people? Does everyone already have friends? My head flooded with images of myself sitting alone for my 4 years, never making one single friend. Looking back, I may have been a little too dramatic that day, but hey, I was scared. At this point, I was in complete panic mode and ready to make the 9-hour drive back to Charlotte with my mom. We start getting settled in, and I was dead silent, shaking on the inside and probably on the outside. I headed over to the first tennis team practice, and 10 minutes in, I was already crying. Coach Klein was trying to comfort me while my mom headed over. I can only assume what went through Coach Klein's brain, but I imagined it went something like this. Well, this one is definitely going to be a handful. She's already crying, and it's only been in an hour. Hopefully she's on JV so I don't have to deal with it. Now knowing Miss Klein, she would never have said anything like that. I calmed down a tad and headed back to the dorm with my mom. 4 p.m. hit, and what I dreaded for all week had finally arrived. My mom had to leave and head back to North Carolina without me. Tears poured down my face. While most people were giving their parents a hug and quick goodbye and see you later, I was the girl sobbing and refusing to let my mom leave. My mom left the building. But was that the last time I was going to say goodbye? Oh no. You may remember a short little freshman sprinting down the front hill, crying hysterically, headed towards the parking lot. That was me. I ran to my mom's car, yanking on the doors, only to find she had locked the car and refused to let me in. At the time, I claimed that was child abuse. My mom finally left for good, and I was in pieces. Everyone tried to help me and make me feel better. Mrs. Ryerson had me into her kitchen to bake, classes just started, and my roommate tried to include me in everything she did by making me come to the cannon socialize. Because, let's be real, freshman year me thought the last thing I had to worry about was making friends, since I had already decided I'd be back home by Christmas. I struggled for the first few months at Blair. I questioned my decision to come here constantly and wondered how in my right mind I had decided to come to a place where I knew not one single person. I settled with the idea that I was having a midlife crisis at age 14. I was in an unfamiliar place, a plane ride away from my family, and did not know what to do. I was constantly FaceTiming my mom crying, and my roommate even had to tell me that I had to stop FaceTiming my parents because every time I did, I would be crying all over again. There were no southern accents to be found, and people kept debating about a sandwich being called a pork roll or Taylor ham. I wanted to scream because I had zero clue what either of those were. Was it a sandwich or a side? Still not really sure. Okay, so here it comes, right? My big moment to turn the corner. Plot twist, that did not happen. Sure, I had little glimpses of times where I felt I had gone into a busy groove, but those did not last forever. Many people get up on stage and say how it got better after their first year, but for me, I still got homesick my sophomore and junior year. What made the difference for me was not some miraculous cure of homesickness, but rather learning what I needed to do in those moments when I did miss home. Instead of staying in my room alone, I learned to go to the camp. The busier I was, the better I felt. If I had to pick one moment when I started to really act like myself freshman year, I would say it was Headmaster's Week. I became friends with all sorts of people I had known from afar. This included my future roommate of 2 years. Trust me, it was not easy making myself do things when it seemed easier to lie in my room and cry to my parents. But I finally realized what made Blair home and how I could conquer my homesickness. The people. Anywhere you go, there are going to be academics and sports, but what distinguishes one school from another is the kind of people. Blair started to be my second family. You have the fun family members such as Mr. Clavel and Coach Klein, the sweet ones like Miss T, the mom, which is Mrs. Ryerson for me, and the ones you can go to for anything like Mrs. Thomas. And of course, there are all of your friends that become your siblings. And this year I'm lucky enough to have 72 little sisters. The Blair people are what made me forget about my homesickness and realize what a blessing it was that I had chosen this place. Before going to boarding school, my dad asked me why I wanted to go. I had told him it sounded like a big fun sleepover, and he laughed. After a few months into my freshman year, it had become the fun sleepover I had always associated boarding school with. But Blair is so much more than just a fun sleepover. We get to have special relationships with our teachers that will take us to Chick-fil-A after class or invite us over to watch a movie. I'm not saying that I never got homesick again, because I think at one point or another, we all wish we were in our own beds at home. However, we feel the same when we get home during the summer and are ready to be back on campus. Blair has made me expand my comfort zone and learn to manage my life on my own. For example, I would never have imagined myself giving a 15-minute speech in front of the whole school. You might be curious as to how I'm doing this right now, considering if you saw me when I stood up for my first school announcement, I was so nervous that I forgot to actually speak and instead just mouthed the words into the microphone. But here I am, hopefully doing a good job. One of the other big obstacles I faced was taking everything too seriously at first. I wanted everything to be perfect at Blair and was too scared to take risks. I would not raise my hand in class in fear of the wrong answer. I was too scared to say hi to someone new in case they wouldn't say hi back. Over the years at Blair, I've learned to give myself a break and remind myself that not everything is going to go how I want. I think we all put too much pressure on ourselves and need to learn to relax a little, mess up and learn from it. Maybe one night, instead of studying for a test, hang out with friends. Sorry, teachers. One of my favorite Bible verses is, "So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal." This reminds me to take a step back from the small picture and look at what's really important. If you see someone struggling, go up and talk to them. Being kind to people doesn't have to be a huge thing. It can just be a quick, hey, how's it going? When I was struggling with my homesickness, the people that went out of their way and said hi or came to my room were the ones I will remember. Kindness is something so easy and can make many people feel good about themselves and make them forget about what's going on in their lives or if they are in a new place. Looking back, I'm so glad I made it through all the tears and shyness. I went out on a limb to go to Blair, and it has been one of the best things to ever happen to me. Boarding school has taught me so many life lessons, and that whatever life throws my way, I know I can handle. Even through some of my roughest times at Blair, Blair has always been there for me. Whether it was baking with Miss Ryerson or going to a friend's room, I soon found out I was never alone. Whenever I find it impossible to leave home, I somehow find it more impossible not to come back. I hope it is and has been the same for all of you. I will always remember here at Convocation my freshman year, how quickly the years at Blair go by. I thought to myself, there is no way high school is going to last forever. But here I am, a senior. Sadly, we will not be at this beautiful place forever, but what we will have forever is the friends and connections we have made along the way. And to any of you new students that have been struggling with homesickness, if I can make it, I promise that you can too. Push yourselves outside of your comfort zone because that is the only thing that can hold you back. And as someone once told me, always shine your light. Thank you, and seniors first.